Flipped, a professional development program for higher degree supervisors and students. Hello, my name is Tara Brabazon and I'm the Dean of Graduate Studies at Charles Darwin University, and welcome to this flipped training session exploring the confirmation of candidature. The success of a PhD, particularly a quick enrolment, a quick completion, is all based on the first year. This success is not about the research the students complete in the first year, but also the planning that is enacted with timeframes to completion that emerge from that first year. So this is everything. Let's talk about the confirmation of candidature. This is the deal breaker moment in Australian PhDs. This is the moment where we assess whether or not a student can do a PhD. So we're assessing a student's capability and their ability. Many universities state in their regulations that all PhD enrolments are provisional until after the student has passed the confirmation of candidature in the first year. Until a student moves through the COC, they're not actually a PhD student. They're not actually a research master's student. Enrolment can be ended, enrolment can be stopped if the student does not move through the confirmation of candidature. It is that important. In the Australian system, this is the hard barrier. This is the deal breaker. And it exists for many reasons. Most importantly, it is determining the student's ability and capacity to do a doctorate. We're assessing both the student and the project. There are many proxies that we use for this assessment, and we can see a lot of these proxies emerge at this early stage. And they include stuff like, can the student identify suitable research questions? Can the student identify a research problem? What is the point of the research? Is there an original contribution to knowledge? This is important as the originality is the definition of a PhD, and that's different from the synthesising masters. We assess writing ability. The student will have to present a major piece of writing, and a confirmation of candidature document includes a proposal, certainly, but also something like a literature review or a systematic review or a scoping review. And we're assessing prose and vocabulary and the capacity to convey scholarship at the required level. We also place the work through text matching software, and we do that as a diagnostic tool, but also to prioritise the focus and the discussion really early on about academic integrity and research integrity. We assess methods and method selection. Does the student understand the relationship between methods and methodology and the difference between them? What about ethics requirements? We're also assessing time management, the capacity to plan. Has the student demonstrated good time management? Has the student developed a strategy to finish this research project? And that's, of course, when we start to talk about backward mapping, the capacity to configure goals and the strategies to reach those goals. Oral communication is another proxy. Has the research been disseminated? So has there been a seminar or a conference at CDU? But also remember the importance of the student configuring digital modes of dissemination. So they record podcasts, videos, born digital objects. There are also compliance issues we need to confirm at the confirmation of candidature. That might be export controls, particularly for our students in science and engineering. Does your research have a defence or military end use? Then we're dealing with third-party agreements. Does the thesis have a formal agreement with a third party, whether it be a business, industry, funder? And of course also research integrity. Has the supervisor and the student made an overt agreement about the authorship of publications? So all of this must be present and discussed in some form in the document and in the COC presentation. So hello to our wonderful students. What our students must present is a research proposal of some kind, and they must demonstrate, is this a viable, realistic project? Can the student complete this project in 3 years? So what is in this proposal? We have a thesis title. the summary of your research, the rationale for your research, research objectives, research questions, methodology, how the research is situated in a discipline or disciplines, your theoretical perspective, a literature review of some kind, and yes, a reference list or bibliography. Okay, so all of this is really basic stuff. This is benchmark stuff. Can the student do it? Is there evidence to show that they can do it? But a candidate is also assessed on their commitment, their motivation, their intellectual ability and their rigour. And again, there are proxies for that, the scale and the scope of the work they have produced, but also professional development. This is the way to determine formative development. What professional development has the student conducted? So the first milestone lists the PD completed, but also the PD required, the skills the student and the supervisor believes will be required to complete this job. There's also talk about resources. Now, this is important. I'm speaking here as a former head of school. Students were let into a program because they asked for a set of resources. If they suddenly required new resources that were not budgeted, then they need to be really specific at this point in the COC. And that change in resourcing may not go well. Now, let's sort of finish off our conversation today by talking about the timing of the confirmation of candidature. It must be between 6 and 12 months of the candidature. How do you decide when, in that 6 to 12 month period, you're going to have your event? Well, an early confirmation of candidature is a really good idea if a student is in the social sciences and they're desperate to get into field work. Or in the sciences. Say the crew have done a good and quick literature review. Ethics is really about to get done, or ethics is not required in some areas of the experimental sciences, and they just want to get started. Great. Early COC. In the humanities, if the student is going to go early, then we really need to dig deeply into the archive. So the student needs to have worked really hard, read widely, and they really need to know their stuff. So I think particularly in the social sciences and allied health, students gain a lot from going to a COC early. Going late holds back the entire candidature. So yes, there will be a confirmation of candidature event where a student will have to present the project orally, they will speak to the proposal, they don't read the proposal, and they will be questioned on it. The written document and the oral component come together to create the accessible component of a confirmation of candidature. But finally, part of what students are asked to do in this milestone is to plan out the next year to the next milestone, the mid-candidature review. Backward mapping is the reason milestones exist. So students must specify in detail the goals they need to achieve in the next year to deliver a PhD in 3 years. So specify goals in some or all of the following areas. What professional development will be required? What expertise in software packages? What hardware will be required? Time management, personal skills, information literacy skills, communication skills, writing skills. And for colleagues that would very much like to be part of a writing community, just a reminder, every Friday we have Write Club. You would put that in your COC. If you are a member of a weekly writing community, put that down. That demonstrates commitment to iterative writing. Then we have to think about the actual research to be completed. So experiments, archival work, field work. What reading, theoretical or methodological, will the student need to complete? We need to be specific, we need to provide deadlines. Log perspective problems and how they will be addressed. Don't mask problems, put the problems into the work and then offer strategies and scenarios to handle those problems. If possible, and this is a crucial one, the great students do this, if possible, specify the chapters you will complete in the next year, or the sections of the chapters that will be completed. If a student is working towards articles, list those articles. If they aim to present at a conference or a seminar, specify those. So at the mid-candidature review, the students will be assessed on these milestones. Don't be crazily ambitious, be accurate. But the student must demonstrate that they will finish in 3 years. If students do not specify enough outcomes for the next year, for the next milestone, the Associate Dean Research and/or assessors will refuse the milestone. Because the student isn't demonstrating how they will complete in 3 years, they're not demonstrating proper backward mapping. So we have to balance ambition and doability and demonstrate how the student will finish in 3 years. That is the point of the milestone. Now, I know the COC is stressful. Yep, absolutely. But it is important. The success of a student and a research project is revealed in the first year. Thank you so much for your time and see you in our seminar.